Welcome to Soulful Conversations with Nadjejda. I'm Nadjejda Chapoteau. I am an empowerment and confidence coach, spiritual teacher, and speaker. I help purpose-driven and ambitious women entrepreneurs discover their message and find their niche in order for them to experience clarity, confidence, and fun in their businesses. I also help ambitious women who don't have a business but who have a story to share and they want to make an impact in the world through sharing their authentic self. I help them find their voice and really stand out. I am very much passionate about dance, social justice, making a difference, specifically empowering women and children in my homeland, Haiti, and empowering women, which is very much in line in my work, empowering women around the world and really embracing who they are, reconnecting with themselves, knowing what they stand for, and really sharing their authentic self, speaking their truth in order to make an impact. So I help them stand out because the way for all of us to stand out is really by being our authentic self. I am really excited about my guest today. She is a fellow empowered woman as well. Emily Bowie is a lifestyle coach that helps women cultivate a belief in themselves so that they live more vibrant and fulfilled lives. She does this by empowering women to find their true strength through growth. Thank you for joining me today, Emily.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So tell me, I find, your work is pretty inspiring. And I know you're all about, you really want women to know that they can have the life that they want. They can they can walk away from, knowing that they can do it. Like they can start right now. They can really, because sometimes we tend to like be stuck in our own ways or stuck in ways that really don't work for us. And we just think that this is how it's going to be. So tell me tell me a little bit about how did you come to this? Did you always think like that?
Okay, so no, I did not always think like that. I had very much a victim mentality. I grew up in this really chaotic atmosphere as a child. My father was an alcoholic, and with alcohol, it breeds addiction throughout the family. And so in turn, codependency happens and the struggle of kind of really knowing you're enough because this substance is more important and one of the most important person in your life. So my dad being an alcoholic took a really big toll on me early on in my life. And it really, I don't want to say it stunted me, but it did not give me the power, or I couldn't find my own power within the struggle ultimately. So this has been a more recent thing. Like I started my journey maybe in college, which was about 5 or 6 years ago. Oh, that's such a lie. That's like 8 years ago. Man, I don't even know. So I started my journey about like 8 years ago. And then life got busy, life got chaotic. I became an adult and I started working. And so I went backwards. And so about 3 or 4 years ago, I decided I was going to be a better person than I was. And so part of that was really digging deep and figuring out where all of this struggle with self-worth came from.
Yeah. And let me ask you now, what would you say, like, what made you think of what is it that happened? Because for most of us, it may not be a specific thing. It might be a series of things, or maybe, I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing maybe just one thing or whatever, but what happened, or maybe you don't have to give the details, but was there a moment like that you said, you know what, I really need to get to see where did this come from? You got tired of, living your life a certain way. And like you said, with the self-worth, like really feeling like you were unworthy or whatever it is that for you felt,
Yeah. So ultimately I was in Big Four accounting. I was a manager at a huge public accounting firm. On paper, super successful. Just got married to the man of my dreams. And all of this looked really amazing on paper. And I was not happy. There was nothing about my life at that point that I was really happy about. And it really came to a head one day. The partner I worked for, at this point, I got promoted early. I'm making 6 figures in my late 20s. I mean, I should be at the top of the world right now. And he called me into his office and he said, you are one of the best, if not the best employees we have, and you're miserable. Why is that? And I was like, wow, now other people are seeing it. And when he said that, I don't think he intended it for me to light that fire to quit my job, but that's exactly what it did. It made me think, like, why, if I'm so successful and my life is so good, why am I so miserable? And what I realized was I was allowing those achievements, that early promotion, that money to dictate my worth. And I got it, and I still felt like crap. And so it was that wake up call where I was like, something has got to change. And getting married and being a newlywed, I was like, wow, I do not want to come into this relationship broken and break up this relationship because I can't get my stuff together. So it was really in those multitude of things going on that I was like, okay, something's got to change.
Totally. Well, do you mind sharing do you mind sharing some of the tools that you used for your, in that journey to sort of like get you through that place and really figuring out the root of it?
Yeah. So like most women, I'm like, if I just lose that 10, 15 pounds, I'm going to be happy. And so I lost 25 pounds and I was still struggling to like really look at myself in the mirror and be happy with what I saw, but also like deeper down feeling like fulfilled. And so as I was on that journey of losing weight and like really taking care of my body, I was like, there's got to be more to this, because everybody talks about this amazing transformation when they lose weight, then they love themselves and all of this stuff. And I was like, I'm just not feeling it. Like, what's going on? And so I started like simultaneously while I was doing that, I was helping other women lose weight too, because I was like, oh, this worked for me. Let me share it with everybody, because I was excited about it because I thought nothing worked before, but I was just never really in that place to make it work.
Yeah.
So as I was helping other women, I started to feel this like happiness, that fulfillment, because I was like making a difference. And what I realized was that was really where my purpose was sharing with other people things that worked for me.
Yes.
And so it was one of those, like, just the beginning, like, as you're like creating the snowball, like that's how it felt. It was like I had just would get one layer at a time. First it was losing the weight. Then it was helping a woman have like that breakthrough, like, oh, I can do that too. And then it was encouraging them to do things. And during that process, I realized I needed to start like working on me so that I could help them further, because I got that excitement. And so my very first thing that I did was pick up one of those books, the ones everybody gushes about that like change your life. Those personal development books that I was like, oh, I don't need that. Like, I'm fine. Like, I can just push through. And I read Mastering Your Mean Girl by Melissa Ambersini. And it changed my life, because I never realized that I had that negative voice in my head until I was reading it. And I was like, ooh, I said that. Ooh, that's me. Oh, like, that's not good. And so that was the first thing, was really kind of listening to another woman who was willing to share what she had gone through, the struggle she's been, and really leveraging off her lessons learned. So that was like really, that's the first thing that I encourage people to do, is find someone that's trying to be better too, whether it be in a book, a podcast, like, or in a coach. I mean, coaching, I didn't even realize coaching was a thing until further along in my journey too. So
Totally. Yeah. And that is the thing. Well, for me, I'm a big advocate of coaching. I'm a big advocate of coaching. Actually, I was just talking to a friend of mine a little while ago, and we were talking. I don't know if you've heard of landmark education.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a landmark graduate, and my girlfriend, the one I was talking to, she just did the landmark forum, and I was telling her how, I think books are great, and I think like actually when I think where you were is like you were like ready for that, and I was telling her that, when I did landmark, and then, that was before, actually that was the first time I heard the term coaching, although it doesn't do the same type of coaching that you and I do. It doesn't go that, at least, well, I don't want to call it that deep, but basically they follow their curriculum. But it really started, I started even reading books differently.
Right.
Because it really opened me up to doing the work. Because really, not many of us, when we read the books, we don't follow through what the book says.
Right.
We might even have that aha moment, but then after we leave the book, then that's it, and that's the thing. Yeah, totally. So did you hear or did you read anything by I may not have her name right, Melody Betty? She wrote the book Codependent No More.
No, actually I haven't.
Oh yeah, because I started reading it. I didn't finish it. My sister did read it because we do have some addiction in our own family. But I often hear people talk about her when it comes to like codependency. Mm-hmm. Because we all know that, yes, when you do grow up, although, you know what, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I thought it was just with addiction, but what I've come to realize is that I do see that, and I've come to realize because I would talk to people, and I do see codependency is just not with addiction, people who have addiction in their families.
So true. Mental illness is a big codependency situation as well. I mean, and I think that's a lot of what I've learned through this process, because I read this, like, the ultimate guidebook to adult children of alcoholics or whatever. And I mean, the first story, the girl's name is Emily.
I have that book. I have it. I haven't read it, but I think I have it because you know what? Well, you and I'm going to send you the name I'll message you the name of the author, and you'll tell me if that's the same one. Yeah.
So and maybe it is. You might, and I might not know that's who wrote it.
I don't want to go pause this and go get it in my.
But I remember opening the book and reading it, and like the first story was like the 3 personality types of an adult child of an alcoholic, and I was like, that's me. That's my brother. I was just like, my mind was blown because I had lived my entire life feeling different. And I think I've felt different in a multitude of ways. Like, I've always had this like yearning to help people and to really share what I've learned. But I also felt very misunderstood. And it would trigger me if people did not understand me, because I knew that having a voice was something I didn't have for the longest time. And so as I got older, it may not have came out in all the right facets early on in my life, but as I have started digging in and like figuring out where it all comes from, it's that need and that desire to be understood and loved regardless that I had been looking for. And what I realized as I was going through this process and I was helping other women, that it was not just adult children of alcoholics. It was not just people who struggled with codependency. It was like a pervasive issue for women, and it was stemming from a multitude of things in their life. And with that, I became even more passionate about it because I knew that my story and like my journey could at least give them hope that they could do it too. Maybe I don't have all the answers, but I can share with what worked for me. And I tried lots of things to get where I'm at now.
Yeah, no, that's very powerful. And you know what? That is one thing, the other day, I don't know if it was doing my live or one of them, and I've thought about it, is that often people might be looking, oh yeah, oh, Emily's done this. Well, yeah, that's Emily,
Right.
or that's Nadjejda,
Right.
Emily has, she's gone through a lot, and look at, she's really putting herself out there. She knows her worth now, she's work, or hey, Nadjejda's speaking her truth. She's really being her who she is. But that's her, or
Right.
whoever. And
Right.
really, I often say to people is that there's nothing that I or anybody else you see. Actually, that's one thing that, well, I know you and I, that's how we met. We work with Jen Scalia,
Yeah.
we both with with her as a coach. I was working with Jen and this other coach before I started working with her alone. And it was a group program, OMG, Maru Lab. you probably know Maru.
Yeah, just from Jen. Yeah.
She's Jen's B's bestie, their best friend. And well, here's the thing is, I think it was Maru who said it when I was doing this. It was a lot of mindset work, that one. And I think she was the one who said it. See what other people, like if you see other people, living a life or being a certain way that you want to be, see it as evidence.
Right.
That you can be that too. Because there's nothing that anybody else is doing that you cannot do. Right. It might take you more time to get there, whatever, but it's not like, actually see it, and not, I know sometimes, especially, depending on what it is, I know some of us, we might start comparing ourselves, or we might start feeling jealous or envious. And it's really, they used to say, don't do that.
Right.
Because actually see it as like, oh, they can do it. I can do it too.
Right. No, I think like what you hit on is exactly what women struggle with a lot of times. We tend to think, I could never do that. My circumstances, my life, everything I have going on, there's no way I could be like her. In even if it's in a negative way or even in a positive way, where it must be nice that she can stay home for 2 years and work some random business and get through all of this stuff. Or it could be one of those things where, she's just stronger than I am, or she must be better at life than me, or she's had bigger breaks in her life. And the one thing that's why I'm so passionate about it is because I told myself those same stories for so long. It must be nice to be able to lose weight like that. It must be nice that you had such a good childhood that you could figure this stuff out. And I would tell myself that. And what the most powerful thing I've learned throughout this journey that I always come back to is that I decide. I decide if I want to start. I decide if I want to continue on. I decide to be miserable if I choose to be miserable. And I choose not to be. And I choose not to be defined by the way I grew up or the decisions I made early on in my life. I've decided that I want to be an empowered woman. And part of that is starting before I'm ready.
Totally. And that is the thing. I love what you just shared here. That is so powerful. I mean, all of it. And what you just said about starting before, that's why even for me, sometimes like, when I'm writing or I'm speaking somewhere and I'm like living and I'm telling people, okay, and I'm saying, if you're so-and-so and you feel like you're ready to take it to the next level, I don't think that term is the right term, because I have to say,
you never feel
no such thing as being ready, because you're never going to be ready. It's like, even now, like actually I launched this in April last year.
Okay.
And I have to tell you, I started before I was ready. Like, I didn't put it on iTunes until like August. I did not know many things. Like there was just so like, because that's one of the things it's like, and that's why I'm like, you know what, that term is not all right, because really, I guess it's sort of like you were saying, I think it's like when you've chosen it, when you've decided that, and when you're like, you know what, I'm no longer doing this anymore. My life can no longer be like this, whatever it is for you, or I'm tired. I know for me, I was like, I wanted to pitch myself to podcasts, which I still want to, and I'm still looking to do it. And I've done a few podcasts, but it's just like, I was like, you know what, why not create my own?
Right.
So that is the thing. And that's with everything in our lives, is like you said, this is so, and I love what you share about, because I think people are like, sometimes I'm sure you've heard it. Oh, I'm not ready to work with you yet.
Right.
And it's like, okay, are you, and this is why, that's one thing I learned from Lindmark. And it's so interesting. My friend and I were just saying, she was saying, I got present to what it was costing me, not being vulnerable, in her case. So that is the thing, is that it's like you were saying, I'm sure you got present that, like you said it, you're like, wait a minute, I can't get into this relationship and break it up because of me.
Right. And I think like that's the big thing, is really slowing down and like drowning out the busy, because what we tend to do is we allow the busy to dictate how we show up, what we do, what's important, how we prioritize. And it was that moment of clarity where I was just like, I can't keep doing this. I cannot keep self-sabotaging. I need to change this, because I know I'm supposed to do something more. I don't know what it is. I don't know how. I know it's not going to be easy, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm ready to start, and I'm ready not to look back anymore. And that was a big thing for me, because I let all of my circumstances define me up to that point. I was always trying to prove people wrong. And instead of doing that to prove my worth, I was allowing that to continue to dictate my worth, was proving these people wrong. And really, I needed to prove to myself that I could be happy, that I could do and accomplish the things. Because what I kept telling myself was I could never be a manager at a Big Four accounting firm, and I was. And I told myself I could never make six figures, and I was. And I kept telling myself that. But really, under all of that, it was like, you're never going to be happy. And so when I really dug in and realized what was stemming this need to achieve, it was really because I wanted to prove to myself I was worthy. I was worthy of being happy. I was worthy of this really good relationship. I was worthy of this career, and all the things that society tells us make us worthy was not doing it for me. And I feel like a lot of women get to that point where they're like, what am I complaining about? On the surface, I've done everything right. Everything seems pretty good. What am I complaining about? And then they take a moment and they stop. And then at that moment, they either decide to continue on just keeping it narrow and doing the same things, or they decide to veer off and get on that path they were really supposed to be on. And I think that's where you and I come into play, where we can help them. We don't guide them. We walk alongside them. We share those life experiences. We say we've been there. We know how you feel. And it's not just something someone says. It's genuine. And
genuine.
And I think part of it is just that authenticity of saying, like, I'm a real person. I have a real story. And I know what it's like to be in that place where nothing really feels great and I need to make a change.
No, totally. And you know what? The thing is, there's something that you said about, like, we've been there, it's like I tell people, just because you see me here speaking my truth, and don't think that I don't experience any fear. I just choose to be fearless. I just choose to not allow the fear to stop me. Right. I still have self-doubt. I'm still like, when I'm saying something, I'm like,
I hope this lands right.
Yeah. And that's what you were saying. Cause it's not like, and that's one thing, like, sometimes I think you might be looking at somebody and you're thinking, but it's when you actually get to know them, or let's say you even start working with them. I know for me, there are people that when I was before working with them, I actually didn't really see the human side of them.
Right.
Depending, because some of us share ourselves more vulnerably and authentically than others, So I'm curious for you, because I'm sure there are women here listening to us who are going to be listening to us. They're going to be like, okay, Like, how did you deal with the bumps in the road? How did you deal when times got tough, or you were like, you find yourself maybe regressing or whatever? Like, how did you deal with that?
And so I have like a more like relevant story for that because it wasn't too long ago I kind of hit one of those. And so let me first start with giving myself grace and realizing that I don't need to know it all to help other people was a big thing for me because I have this worth issue. So I had made this notion in my mind, even though I knew better, I made this notion that I should know better. I should never go backwards. And that's just not true. And I would never expect that of anyone else. And so for the longest time, I was afraid to share the more recent vulnerability. I could share all that like past crap that I got through, but it was getting harder to share the stuff I was currently dealing with, because as you start dealing with that old stuff, the new stuff, the new layers of problems that you get when you're more self-aware, the new layers of problems you get as you start digging through things, that's where it gets you, right? And so most recently, I had to make a huge life change. So I mentioned earlier, I quit my corporate job. I started a business, was really on this journey to find myself for 2 years. And it was amazing. I have an amazing husband that supported me as I went through this because he wanted me to be my best self. And so he knew if I knew this is what I needed, he was all about it. But then it was his turn. And so as he transitioned out of the Navy, he wanted to go back to school. He has this passion of health and fitness. He really wants to work with athletes. But part of it was his undergrad was in engineering, and this job he wanted was in not fitness, but like training. Yeah. And so he wanted to go get his master's, but the program is a full-time program, which means either my business that doesn't provide self or health insurance and all of these things would have to support both of us, or I needed to go back to work. And so that's what I did. And I still have my business, and my business is my passion. And I know that this is a 2-year stint for his benefit. Yeah. But I had to remind myself that because I struggled a lot with that transition. Since I'm an achiever, I couldn't make my business make ends meet. But really, that wasn't the case. It was the security of having a full-time income that was appealing. It was the security of having someone else pay my health insurance and not just me. Yeah. And, that's really why I did it. Could we have struggled through it? Absolutely. But I felt like it was the more mature decision for me to go back into the workforce. And so that's what I did. Well, all the while I'm making this personal transition that I'm struggling with because, my worth is all wrapped up in success. My dad, who I had pretty much a broken relationship with, through my childhood, who is the alcoholic, he lost his job. And of course, I get a phone call and he needs help. And at this point, I've been on this 2-year self-discovery journey where it's about me. And now not only am I making the sacrifice to go back to work while my husband's in school, but now I have to take care of someone else. And I have to put my journey on pause. And I didn't even realize how much it impacted me until I was in the thick of it. And so long story short, he got diagnosed with cancer and he had to have surgery, and I had to be that person for him. I needed to help him and support him and guide him through that journey. And I'm still trying to repair the relationship I didn't have with him before. And 4 intensive days with a man I hadn't spent more than an hour or 2 with in 20 years. And it was a struggle, to say the least. And it started that tilt backwards. And it was a whirlwind, because as long as it had taken me to get where I was going, it was half that time going back.
Yeah. And you probably felt like you were regressing. You probably became that kid again in a way.
Absolutely. And so I had to deal with my childhood issues with my adult mind, and I just couldn't wrap my head around how to do it. And so this person I had become, I started to lose her. I was losing her. I didn't know I was losing my identity again, and my worth of how my dad valued me, or who I was taking care of all of these people. And so with that, I started to shut down. And that was the worst thing I could have done. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. I was giving myself a pass. Oh, go ahead and skip that workout. Go ahead and eat that chicken pad thai, which, by the way, I love. And then
I love pad thai.
But I will say, in moderation, should I only eat it? Not like every meal. And that's what was like I was self-sabotaging. And it was so discreet that I didn't realize I was doing it. And then it was Christmas season, or like leading up to Christmas, and Hallmark movies were out. So it was a joke. Oh, I'll just binge watch this Hallmark movie. But it ended up being a thing where I was working and then I was shutting down. Because if I'm watching TV, I don't have to think about all the feelings. And during this time, my grandfather passed away. So like there's just so much going on that I didn't know who I was anymore. And I finally got to a point where I just was so sad, and I knew I needed to make the change. I mean, for weeks did I think about it. I thought about it. I was like, I shouldn't be doing this. I need to go do something. But it wasn't bad enough at that point. And finally, I was like, okay, what have you done in the past that has propelled you forward? And because I was talking terrible to myself. I was that same person 2 years and much more knowledge later doing the same stinking thing that got me there in the first place. And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, where I was like, all right, you got to get back together. And the one thing I knew would help me was public accountability, because if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. It's just who I am.
I hear you. Me too.
Who I am through and through. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And so part of that was admitting that I didn't have it all figured out, that I actually in 3 months' time undid, or I thought I did. I thought I undid 3 years of work. And so I hit that Facebook Live button and I shared. I said, this is what's going on. This is how I've been. And that release of just being honest with myself and with the people that I was working with, my clients, my family, my friends, and just being open about it, that was the first step. And I was not ready. Like that whole time I was like, oh, I'd rather just watch Hallmark movies. And like, I was giving myself excuses. And I was like, if I'm not going to do it now, I'm never going to do it. So I hit live, I shared, and I told them, and it came to me as I was talking. I was just like, I'm going to start before I'm ready. I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I want to stay on the couch. I want to still feel sorry for myself. And I still want to be in this hole. But I know better. I'm purpose driven, and I have women that are waiting for me to get my crap together. And the longer I take to get my crap together, the longer they have to wait to believe in themselves. And that's just not fair. And so I did it.
Yeah.
And I found myself again.
So, this one of the things I heard you say, which I think is really sometimes, you feel like, okay, I need to do it for myself. But also you thought about, you're very much, I can see that shows that you're about purpose. You know that you're not here just for you. Because you thought about, okay, I need to show up for myself, and I need to show up for these other women.
Right.
The women that I'm meant to impact, So totally. And that's the thing, like, sometimes we might be like, I know I learned, I think it was Brene Brown I got this for, where she said, if you find that you're being like scared, you're being like, and she says, you know what, it's because you're thinking about you. Or you're like, you want to give up. Sometimes it's because you're thinking about you. But when you've shifted into the people you're meant to impact, like if you're going to speak, the audience, the people you're meant, then you know what, then you forget about the fears or something. You just keep going, or you, like you said, you get yourself out of it. So
Yeah, and
totally.
it's totally different once you have that vision of like what you're supposed to be doing,
Yes.
how, like who you want to be and like the life you want to live. And I think that was the most powerful thing for me, is I wouldn't slow down enough to figure that out. So I would go through the motions, go through the motions, go through the motions. And it wasn't until a few years ago when I sat down and I was like, what am I meant to do? That I got connected to that. And that's what got me off the couch. That got me to turn off the Hallmark movies. It got me to really get real with myself and get back to who I'm supposed to be. Because deep down inside, I've always known I was meant to help people. I just didn't know how.
Yeah.
And so that's where, that if there's the one takeaway suggestion, is slowing down and figuring out why you're supposed to be here. What is your purpose? And not just impacting other people. Not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody needs to be a coach. But why are you here? Are you meant to take care of other people? Are you meant to brighten somebody's day? And it can be as simple as that. And that can be how you live your life every day. But it is a lot harder to make changes. It's a lot harder to actually achieve that fulfillment and that happiness if you don't know why you're doing the things you're doing. And when they're not aligned with where you're really trying to go. So
Totally. And I think that's, you know what you just shared is so true, because it's like, I often say that I know for me, like in the entrepreneur journey, I think that I often said that if it wasn't for my why, I probably would have given up for quite a few times already, because if you don't have a big why, and like you said, that's with everything in life, a relationship, with everything, you have to know, why am I here?
right.
Why am I in this relationship? Why did I start this business? Why am I living in this city? Why, that's what, because if you don't have a big enough why, when times get tough, and it's going to get tough because it gets up everything, then you're completely out.
Right.
Or another thing is, you could either be completely out, and some of them, it's just get out of it. Some people is just sit in it, but be miserable and not do anything about it. And then there's the thing of like, okay, you know what? I'm just out of here, or I'm sticking with this because, what can I do differently, So totally. Thanks for that. So let me ask you, since you brought up purpose, do you believe in life purpose? And if you do you have one? Do you mind sharing it with us?
Yes, I thoroughly believe in life purpose, because, and so mine all stems back to religion, and I was not a really religious person early on in life. I always had this like blind faith in God. It kept me on the straight and narrow. I wasn't always on it, but it got me back there. And I just had this blind faith. I didn't know a lot about God. I didn't even know this concept of purpose existed until I started on this like empowerment journey. And as I started doing the things, reading the book and actually doing the activities, or listening to the podcast and like writing down the takeaways, I started to realize that I needed to believe in something more than myself in this world that I was here to do. Like there was always something bigger in my life. I just didn't really, the name was God, the name was Jesus. I just didn't really know what that meant. And the more I dug into my faith, the more it became really evident that everybody has a purpose, and there's always a message behind the mess. And there is always something in your life at all times is happening, and it's happening for you, not to you. But
Yes.
you have to decide that. And I think that was the most powerful thing for me. So my biggest mission is really to help women realize the strength and the empowerment is there for them if they choose to grow into it. And part of that is taking those steps forward, like reading the books, listening to the podcast, working with the coach, and really deciding to start before they're ready. And my purpose is just to walk alongside women, because I know early on in my life, I feel like I would have had more of a direction if somebody would have done that for me. And so there's this passion for me to do that for women now, but also for those women, those younger women, the ones that are not at that point where they know themselves yet, and to come alongside them and mentor them as well. And I think we all have purpose, and we all have a reason why we're here. And that's what should be driving what we do on a day-to-day basis, not because someone somewhere told me to do something, but because it gets us closer to who we're supposed to be, and the purpose and the life we're supposed to live, and the people we're supposed to impact.
Totally. And what would you say, what do you stand for in life?
Belief. Like, I think hope and belief are like the biggest things for me. I really want women and men, I want everyone to know that you can do whatever you put your mind to. It is making that decision for yourself that is what you want, and you're going to work towards it. And you don't need to be the rich kid or the kid that had the loving family or whatever to do big, impactful things with your life. You have that power within you. You just have to grow into that person. And that's what I believe. I believe everyone has an equal shot at this life, because there are people out there who want to help you do that. And I don't mean it on our little scale of the United States. I mean the ones who are donating, the ones going on mission trips, the ones that are giving people opportunities, that we should all be doing that. And that everyone deserves to have someone fighting for them.
I love that. Love that. Thank you. So tell me, so this concludes the interview part. I want you to tell people about you, where they can connect with you. You don't have to worry about spelling it out, but tell them, because everything is going to be under the video on my website with all your info. And if you're listening to us to Apple Podcasts /iTunes, you can visit my website, www.lovelikecoaching.com. Click on Soulful Conversations with Nadjejda, and you'll be able to see the episodes, and you can click on Emily's episode so you can get all her information. So tell them a little bit more about you, your work, where they can connect with you.
Okay, so you can connect with me on Instagram. That's my jam. I am under the Empowered Woman Lifestyle. And part of that is me helping women who want to share their message have a platform to do that, and also connecting with like-minded women. So I'm all about the masterminding and coming together with the like-minded woman, and helping them kind of just by walking alongside them, guiding them through creating a vision, understanding the person they want to be, and how they're going to do it, and how they can have it all with the little lifestyle shifts we need to make to get it. And so that is my biggest passion, is to really help women know not only what they can have and get them through those limiting beliefs of what their life is on that smaller scale, but showing them what it could be, and then helping them make those little shifts to get there. So that's what I do. And I love women who are starting before they're ready, because I've been there. I get it.
Yes. So what would be your last message to women who are feeling like, okay, I don't know, this is not it, but they don't know how to start. They don't like, what would be your last message to them?
Well, as someone who formerly Googled, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I used to Google how to find yourself.
Really? Wow, that's very interesting.
And that was how this all started, was how do you find yourself? I suggest you reaching out to all those women that say, hey, I'm here to help you. Hey, I want to walk alongside you. I encourage you to reach out to them. And if you don't know who that woman is, which, I mean, if you're listening to both of us, I'm sure you can figure out someone you want to talk to. But if not, just look for that person that you feel like can get you and just ask them, what did you do? How did you make that change? And it is a lot easier to make that change with someone than without somebody. And so I encourage you to do that, whoever that is. And even if it's not to be coached or to join a program or anything like that, but just asking. Because when you start asking questions, you start finding out the answers. And I think that's the most powerful thing I've learned on my journey is if the more questions you ask, the more you figure out about yourself. So
Totally. And that is very true. I think I think I heard that from Deepak Chopra. He has something, he says, live in the questions.
yeah.
Because sometimes we're like, we have questions, or we ask the question and we're like, okay, like I know for me recently, I found myself like I would pray or ask questions or something. And then I'm like, okay, can you remember, it doesn't have to come right this minute.
Right. Well, and even to that point, the one thing that helped me was patience and learning that everything is in God's timing and being okay with that. So the one powerful thing I started to do was I always prayed for things, right? I want this, I need this, I think this is where I should go. And I read a passage, and there was subsequently a sermon that week, and then it was on a podcast. I was like, okay, I get the message.
Yeah, I heard you.
But it was talking about praying for God's perfect will versus his permissive will. God will give you what you want or what you need, and it might not show up the way you anticipate it. But how great would your life be if you prayed and asked for what he wanted for your life? And for me, that was the shift where I was like, all right, this is all part of something. So even when I hit that lull in that time in my life, I was trying to find the message. I was like, what am I learning here? Why am I going through this right now? And what I realized was so that I can share it, because a lot of us start on this improvement and this empowerment journey, and then we go backwards, because that's what life is. You will get sideswiped by something, but it does not determine, your first gut reaction doesn't determine who you are or where your growth is. It's the second decision, the decision you do to change it, the decision that you make to stand up and say, no, I don't want this for myself, or whatever the case may be.
Totally. And I'm a student of A Course in Miracles. And one of the things that A Course in Miracles says is, it says magic is when you ask the universe what you want, or, you ask for what you say what you want. And mm-hmm. Miracle is when you ask the universe to use you.
Yes.
So that, to use you so that, you're ready, and it's so powerful. And for me, that's one of the things, one of my daily prayers is use me,
right.
How can I be of service today? Because it's true. Often we're like, I want this, I want that. But then what's more powerful is allowing God, universe, whatever we want to call it, to use us, and to use us as a vessel so that we can be what we were born to be, So.
Absolutely. Perfectly stated. And I mean, I feel like I always see that when I need to see it. I'm reading Gabby Bernstein's Judgment Detox right now.
Oh, you are? Okay.
As I'm going through it, I'm like, Man, God, you talk to me everywhere.
Yeah, and she's a teacher of a course. She's a student and teacher of a Course in Miracles too.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. So I knew exactly what you were talking about.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So wow. So thank you so much, Emily. This was so great. So those of you, her info. Actually, she did tell them about your gift because I have your gift there that I'm going to be sharing. So if you want to tell them a little bit about it.
So my gift to you guys is to get fit on the fly. And the reason I give this is because most of us just want to lose that 5 pounds thinking that it's those 5 pounds that are going to change. But it's the community that comes with it that is the most powerful part of it. But the Get Fit on the Fly, you get 5 moves to do anywhere so that you're just staying active and you get those endorphins and you feel great. And then you become part of this empowered woman lifestyle community where we not only connect on the fact that we want to better ourselves, but we also have those deep, vulnerable moments together. So
great. Okay. So all of her info and the link, you're going to see it. It's going to be, I think, what is it called again? Because I'm going to be putting it like this.
Get Fit on the Fly.
Get it fit on the fly. Yeah, I saw it. So you're going to see it there. Her website, everything will be on there. You can click and, get it, take advantage of her free gift. So if you really enjoyed this and you want to listen to more episodes, every Thursday I make a new one available. Go ahead and subscribe to my email list, which is under the video. After her information, you'll see a box. Click, put in your name, your email address, and subscribe. You will get every Thursday a new episode in your inbox. And also, once you sign up, you'll get my free gift, which is my 7 questions to help you reconnect with yourself and have an aligned message in your business. Even if you don't have a business, it will still benefit you. Let's say you're an ambitious woman who have a story to share, that it will help you find your voice in a way, because a lot of us, what it is that we're still looking to reconnect with ourselves. We don't really know who we are. And those questions are really going to help you with that. So you also will get that free gift from me, and also you'll get weekly tips and inspiration from me every Tuesday. Wow. So thank you again. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcast, at iTunes, some people don't know if it's Apple Podcast now. Go ahead and subscribe to Soulful Conversations with Nadjejda, leave a review, and visit my website, www.lovelikecoaching.com, in order for you to get Emily's information, and also if you want to connect with me. So thank you again, Emily. This was really a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Love it, Mike. Take care. Bye, everyone. Bye.